Good morning, Year 4, and welcome back to another maths lesson. Today we're looking at sum and difference and being able to calculate those to answer questions about charts and graphs. But what does sum and difference actually mean? Well, let's find out. We'll start by working out what sum means. So let's start with an easy example. How many blocks have I got in each tower? That's right, I've got 6 on one side and 4 on the other. So if I was going to find the sum of these two towers, what do you think I have to do with them? That's right, I have to add them together. Finding the sum of something means I have to add those numbers together. So I need to do 6 add 4. So I could just put both of my towers together and then count up how many blocks I've got, which of course, as you'll know, is 10. So the sum of 6 and 4 is 10, or 6 add 4 is 10, both exactly the same thing. We could show the sum of these two numbers using these representations. We could use a part-whole diagram to show 6 and 4 and then the total at the top. Or we could use a bar model where we've got 6 here and 4 here, and we need to know how much they make altogether. And in fact, if we turn this round, it looks quite a lot like our tower where we had 6 blocks and then we had 4 blocks on the top to make our total. That's all a bar model is, really. And there are, of course, some other ways of saying finding the sum. We could say how many do we have altogether? We could say what's the total of 6 and 4? We could say add 6 and 4, or 6 add 4, or 4 add 6 for that matter. Or we could say what's the sum of 6 and 4? All of those mean you're adding. So let's give it a try. I'd like you to pause the video and calculate the sum of these numbers. Have you got your answers? Well, here are mine. The sum of 9 and 5 is 14 because 9 add 5 is 14. The sum of 28 and 23 is 51. You might have been able to do that in your head as well. And then 974 and 398, I thought I'd better use a written method just to make sure I was right. And I made 1,372. Well done if you got those. So now we know what sum means. So we can add it back into our Can I title. Sum just means that you add them together. Okay, so then what does difference mean? Well, you might be able to guess. Let's look back at our towers that we had at the beginning. So we had our green tower, which has 6 blocks, and our red tower, which has 4. Now, to find the difference between them is different to finding the sum. And no, before you say it, the difference doesn't just mean they're different colours. There is a mathematical way of showing the difference. So let's have a look. We can see that these two towers are different. If we put them together, look, you can see one is taller than the other one. And it's the size difference that we're interested in. So that's what we mean by the mathematical difference between the two towers. So if we wanted to make them the same, we would have to add 2 more blocks to our red tower. That would make them the same height. Or if we go back to our original, what else could we do to make them the same? Instead of adding 2 to the red tower, what could we do? Yeah, we can take 2 away from the green tower. And now they're both the same height. Look, we can prove it. Now they're the same size. So what we did really was we subtracted. We took away from the green tower to make them the same. And that's what we mean by difference. The difference just means how many more does this tower have than the other tower? Or what do you need to take away to make them the same? We would say that these amounts have a difference of 2 because it's these 2 extra blocks that make the green tower different from the red tower. Or we could say we're subtracting, because effectively what we're doing is we're looking at these two towers and thinking, well, how can we make them the same? So we got our 4 there, and if we take our 4 here, we're left with 2. So we could say 6 take away 4 is 2. So that's the difference between them. You could also count up. You could count up from 4 to see how many more you need to make 6. But the answer's still going to be 2. And again, we can show this calculation using different representations. If we have a part-whole diagram, this time our whole amount is 6. Our biggest tower is 6. And our smaller tower was 4. And we need to know what we had to add to 4 to make 6. So we can do the inverse the other way around. 6 take away 4 would be 2. And the same with our bar model here. We know that the whole tower is 6. And we know that we had the smaller tower with 4. And if we put it this way around, again, it looks very similar. So how many more blocks did we need to make it the same as the tower of 6? We also have some other language that might be used. You won't necessarily always have a question that says, what is the difference between these numbers? You might have the word subtract. It might say how many more or how many less. It might ask you for the difference, or it might say to take away. Either way, we're subtracting every time. Right, now it's your turn again. This time I want you to calculate the difference between the numbers that we've got. So remember, you're taking away. Pause the video while you work them out. Have you got your answers ready? Let's have a look. So the difference between 9 and 5 is 4. If I had a tower of 9 and a tower of 5, I would need to put 4 more onto the 5, or take 4 away from the 9, to make them the same. The difference between 28 and 23, again, is 5. And we'd say that the same even if these numbers were the other way round. So if this said 23 and 28, you wouldn't do 23 take away 28. You always start with the bigger number when you're subtracting. And then we have our big numbers underneath, 974, 398. I had to do a column subtraction for this. It got quite complicated, but I worked through it and made my final answer of 576. Hopefully that's what you got as well. If we look back at our title again, we know that sum means you add the numbers, and now we know what difference means as well. Difference means that you subtract. So let's see how we can apply that today. Looking back at some of the charts we've been using, we can ask some sum and difference questions. So I've got a couple of questions here for you. See if you can work out the answers using our bar chart about how many star jumps this family could do in 1 minute. Right, pause the video and see if you can work out the answers. Okay, let's go through them. The first question was, what is the difference between Anna and Ben's scores? So we need to look at Anna and Ben. We've got their scores at the top here. So we know that Anna got 58 and Ben got 72. So how many would we need to take away from Ben to make them the same? Well, we can do that by doing 72 take away 58. Which leaves you with an answer of 14, whether you've done it in your head or using column subtraction. Both are fine. Question 2 says the sum of Nan and Grandad's star jumps is the same as who else's. So we need to find the sum of Nan and Grandad. So if we find them on the bar chart, Nan got 23, Grandad got 35. So if we're finding the sum, we had to add those two numbers together, which gives us a total of 58. But 58 isn't the answer to this question. It says the sum of Nan and Grandad's star jumps is the same as who else's. So who else got 58 star jumps? Well, we look here, no. There we go. So it was Anna. So Nan and Grandad together both got the same amount as Anna did on her own. Well done if you got those. Let's look at another one. So here we have a pictogram. This is the pictogram we've been looking at before about the colour of different Smarties in a tube. Now remember, pictograms can be tricky because we need to remember that one picture doesn't necessarily represent one thing. So we have the key down the bottom here that tells us that one picture represents two Smarties. So make sure you're careful. Let's have a look at the questions. You ready? Right, pause the video until you've got your answers. Right, let's see how we've done. Question 1 says, I only like the pink, blue and yellow Smarties. Very fussy. How many is that? So let's go to pink, blue and yellow, and we're going to need to find the sum of those. We're going to need to add them together. So pink Smarties, now remember each picture is 2, so that's 2, 4, 6. So pink is 6, blue is 2, 4, 5. So 6 add 5, and yellow, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So we've got 11, add 6, add 5, which gives us a total of 22. Question 2 says, how many more yellow Smarties are there than brown? Now, this is one of those questions that sounds a bit tricky. How many more are there than the other colour? But remember, that's just finding the difference. So we're looking at the yellow line across here, and we're looking at the brown and working out how many is the difference between them. So let's have a look. Yellow, we know from just now, made 11 in total. And brown is 2.5 pictures, so that's 3. So we've got 11 and 3. So if we're finding the difference, I can do 11 take away 3 to find out what the gap is between them, how many more I would need for brown to make it the same as yellow. So 11 take away 3 makes 8 in total. Today's challenge is on Google Classroom, like the other day. And this time you have 3 different sheets to have a look at, using the same charts that we were using the other day. This time you've got 3 questions about each one. So there are just 9 questions in total today. And I'd like you to try your best to solve all of them if you can. They are all either sum or difference questions. They might not have those words in them necessarily, but that's what you need to do. You'll need to add or subtract to work out each one. Good luck today, and I'll see you for our final lesson on charts and graphs tomorrow. Bye.